Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you've all been well. It honestly feels like I haven't done a voiceover or recorded a video in so long, but I'm finally back to making videos again. As you can see from the title, I am making creamy chicken spring rolls. You probably are wondering how I came up with this idea, but I was thinking about my creamy chicken pasta that I made, and I was just thinking, how would it turn out if I was to make it in a spring roll? So obviously not the pasta, but just the mixture inside a spring roll. I was actually debating for a while whether I should do it or not, but I just thought, let me just experiment, see how it turns out. I did record the process while I was doing it, so if it does come out good, then I'll post it. And it honestly did turn out really good, so here's a recipe for it. I'm not too sure if you guys remember, but last year I said to myself that I want to make spring rolls outside of Ramadan, and not just when it's Ramadan. And I didn't end up doing what I promised that I was going to do. But hopefully this year I do make them a lot more with different types of fillings. In my family, we tend to just make the filling of spring rolls with lamb keema or chicken keema, which is basically minced meat. But I'm just kind of like bored of them type of like flavors and textures, so that's why I wanted to do something different this time. I also did want to make a creamy chicken and mushroom filling for the spring rolls. I haven't tried that yet, but I will give it a try and see how that turns out. But I'm not too sure if like the textures will go and if it will be creamy enough to be in a spring roll. But anyway, going back to the recipe. So I first just started off by using 750 grams of chicken breast, and I followed it by slicing up a red onion, and I also used roasted red peppers. If you don't have peppers in a jar like mine, then you can also just use fresh bell peppers. So now for the chicken, it's really quick and easy to make. So I added in some olive oil to the pan, and I followed it by adding on the chicken. Once adding in the chicken, I followed it by adding in all the spices that you see on the screen. At this point, the heat is on high while adding in all of the spices. And what I like to do as always is cook the chicken on a high heat for 1 to 2 minutes before putting it on a low heat and then letting it cook for an additional 5-6 minutes. You can definitely check the chicken in the 6 minutes to see how it is, but I ended up like putting the closeout on the line and I didn't check it for the whole 6 minutes, and the chicken did turn out good. I don't recommend that you like turn the heat to high and drain out the water, because the chicken will continue to cook while you add it into the cream mixture. And now after the 6 minutes of cooking, the chicken is done. So simply just remove it from the pan, and we'll now focus on making the sauce. What I like to also do when removing the chicken is covering it with some foil and leaving it on the side. I've noticed that when I cover the chicken with foil, it just lets it become very soft, and I've just been doing that since then. So now in the same pan, I'm adding in the chopped onion and the bell peppers. I only ended up cooking these two together for around 2 to 3 minutes on a medium to low heat. I've also noticed that when I add in these roasted bell peppers from the jar, it does soften the onions a lot more quicker than using fresh bell peppers. So now for the next main ingredient to make this really creamy is adding in double cream. You guys are probably watching this and realising that it's very similar to my creamy chicken pasta dish, and that's honestly where I got the inspiration for. So if you have been making my creamy chicken pasta for a while, then use that same recipe and just don't add in the pasta and just add it in spring rolls instead. That's like the easiest advice I can give you for this. I'm also just thinking of it now, but this filling would definitely be really nice in some pasties or pockets, or whatever you guys call it. So I might have to actually try that as well and see how it turns out. Okay, so after the double cream is in, make sure that the heat is low, and also season it more if you feel like you need it. You might need a little bit of spice, or you might need a little bit of salt, so just adjust it to how you want to. Also guys, I can't believe that I missed out on the main ingredient, which is chili flakes. Like, it was just missing a kick, and I was like, there's one thing I haven't added, and I realised that this was what I was missing. Also, considering that I've made these sprinkles now and I've learnt some like things I wouldn't do, things I would do, I would definitely recommend after you've added in the chicken and after it's cooled, that you do kind of mash up the chicken together, if that makes sense. For example, I've noticed that when I'm eating the chicken, there's just pieces of chicken in the sprinkles, which is nice, but I think it would be a lot more better if it was to be mixed more rather than just be pieces of chicken. Also, one thing that I did notice is when I added in the chicken, I felt like it was way too creamy. So I tried to like balance it out by adding in the cheese to make it a bit more thicker. You probably are thinking, well, the whole point is creamy chicken sprinkles, but you don't want it to be runny, because when they are like cooked, you don't want it to actually leak. Okay, so for the spring roll sheets, this is a pastry that I'm using. I found mine at South Asian supermarket, but I'm sure you can find them at any local supermarkets as well. Also, when it comes to the pastry sheets, you will find them in the frozen section, as these are frozen. And I simply take them out of the freezer and I let them defrost. It takes about an hour or two. Not too sure exactly, but that's how long I kept them out for. And then just slowly with no like crazy force, just rip them apart like this. Another tip is when you do remove these from each other, don't leave them out for too long because they will start to go hard. So I like to just separate these all and fill them, not as soon as I can, but at least within like a couple hours. I also forgot to mention that when you finish cooking your creamy chicken mix, that you need to allow it to cool completely. If you were to add in a hot mixture to the pastry, it will literally rip, so that's not a good idea. So this is literally just how I roll the spring rolls, and I feel like when the mix is cooled, I recommend that you guys do mash it up a little bit so it's not into pieces. That's definitely something that I'm going to take on board next time. I was actually live on TikTok when I was recording this process, so I wasn't able to just like properly record a video, plus the lighting wasn't that good. And then as you can see here, I'm basically sealing it with plain flour and water, which I mixed together, and then I got like a very sticky consistency. When I am making spring rolls, like in my previous video, I normally just use water to seal these, but because I'm using a different filling this time and I don't want it to leak while frying, I made sure that these were like properly stuck together with the flour and water mix. It's definitely optional up to you whether you want to add cheese or not, but I just added cheese into some of them to see how it turned out, and it actually did turn out really nice. You can also see that I'm kind of mashing up the chicken, as the chicken was like, it just wasn't as small as I thought it was. So if you do want to mash it up, then that's completely fine. Okay, so one thing that I didn't expect is that all of the chicken mix that I made was able to fill 40 spring rolls perfectly. Like, I didn't think that was going to be a perfect ratio, but 750 grams definitely does fill 40 spring rolls, depending on how much you fill them, of course. I feel like if I was to fill them a lot more, then I would need more sheets, but it turned out perfectly. And now at this point, once all the spring rolls are filled, I simply just added them to a plastic bag, and then I'm going to add them into the freezer. This is only the first day of freezing the spring rolls. After this day, I ended up buying some Ziploc bags, and then I added the spring rolls into that, as it's much more easier to have them in a proper like airtight bag rather than one of these. So now, as you can tell, this is the next day. This is how the spring rolls look as soon as they're out of the freezer. Make sure you are very careful when you're separating them, as if you do use too much force like I have done in the past, then you can just like rip the spring rolls, and that's not what you want. I just separated these as carefully as I could, and then I added these in the microwave for 20 to 30 seconds. The only reason why I'm adding these inside of the microwave is just so I can defrost them a little bit, and just so they're firm and not too soft, because they will actually rip and like some of the liquid will start to leak. I tested this on a spring roll where I added it into the microwave for literally 40-50 seconds, and it was so soft and the creaminess inside actually started leaking. So please take my advice to defrost them in the microwave, or just allow them to defrost outside for about an hour or even half an hour until they just become slightly soft. Also guys, when I say outside, I don't mean outside in the garden, but I mean like outside room temperature. And now for the main part is to just deep fry your spring rolls. I just deep fry them for a couple minutes until they become really nice and golden brown. And this is literally how the spring rolls turned out. If you're wondering what the sauce is, I literally just added it to the video that I posted before this one. It's a mix of Kewpie mayo, sriracha, ketchup, and also some chili oil. If you guys do end up making these, then definitely show me, as I'll just see your recreations. And on that note, I hope you guys enjoy your week, and I'll see you in my next video.